Okay, and then as always, if you have any written comments, you can submit them to us at cieinfo@avenuessls.org. So again, if you're joining us either for the first time or if you've seen some of our other webinars in this employment series, this is part of a series of webinars that's being offered thanks to a grant from the California Department of Developmental Services in collaboration with North LA County Regional Center. One of the requirements of this grant is that we administer a series of questions before and after the webinars. So please complete our survey questions at the end of the webinar, as well as our follow-up questions that will be sent to you in June. And thanks in advance for completing these surveys. Your privacy will be protected in the responses. And a lot of these questions are requirements that we have from the state. They want some data on who's accessing this information. We are recording these webinars and we will have them posted. We're hoping by mid-June that we'll have them posted, and you can either rewatch or you can encourage other families, service providers, or even regional center staff to sign up to watch any or all of these in the future. So today's webinar, if you're live with us today, that means it's May 17th, and we're talking today about navigating and maintaining Social Security benefits, including SSI and SSDI, as well as Medi-CAL and other essential benefits while working. Next week, we're going to talk about finding a good job match and using person-centered planning and discovery to identify job duty and environmental preferences, using job carving and community connections to promote success, as well as developing and assessing your talents and skills to help promote successful employment outcomes. On May 31st, this will be our last of 5 webinars. We're going to talk about bridging the gap, promoting diversity in the workplace, and look at how hiring workers with disabilities improves morale and positive company outcomes. And this will really focus a lot on job development. So as always, to recognize for these upcoming webinars, go to our website at www.avenuessls.org. All right, so I'm going to start a little bit with an overview of Social Security. If you haven't gone to their federal website already, you can access the Social Security website to get this information and other information about your benefits, and you can at www.ssa.gov. And this has a wealth of information on it. So all the resources we're going to share today can be accessed there as well. We're just going to try to break it down into simpler steps so that it's easily understandable and that it won't be a barrier towards employment. So the 2 most common benefits are SSI, supplemental security income, and we encourage everyone, if they haven't already, to apply for SSI by age 18 prior to gaining full-time employment. Because once you apply, then you have some Social Security work incentives that will kick in once you become employed. So again, we encourage you to apply for your SSI benefits. All right. And again, if you receive SSI benefits, you're automatically eligible for Medi-CAL benefits. Okay. Now, SSDI, not as many people are on SSDI, at least not as many of our young folks. And this is Social Security Disability Insurance. You become eligible through a parent's benefits once your parent either passes away or retires, or if you've worked quite a while already, you may become eligible through your own benefits if you've worked and put taxes into Social Security already. A son or daughter with a developmental disability is eligible to receive SSDI, oftentimes referred to as SSA as well. 2 years following the eligibility for SSDI, the disabled dependent also becomes eligible for Medicare. And this means that the person may then be eligible for both Medicare and Medi-CAL, often referred to as Medi-Medi. And that will improve your opportunities of your insurance, which allows you to see a lot more providers and sort of increases the coverage that you get. So navigating Social Security Administration benefits, again, we encourage all adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities to apply for SSI once they turn 18 so that they're eligible for the work incentives. There's another benefit that's available to students that are under 22 years old and receiving SSI, supplemental security income, are allowed to exclude earned income up to $7,550 per year without impacting any of their SSI benefits through a rule that's called the Student Earned Income Exclusion Rule. So if students have if you're a student and you have an opportunity to work from age 16 through age 21, grab it, because your SSI benefits will maintain at 100% through this Student Earned Income Exclusion Rule. And the one thing we really want to get across today is that it's always going to be more financially beneficial to work and already have supplemental security income. Your benefits will not stop just because you work. As we're going to share today, your benefits may be adjusted based on the amount of income you receive, but you're still going to make more money. You're always going to make more money by working than if you're just receiving SSI by itself. And one example, or one person that's going to share a little bit more about that is you.
Yep.
Want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jareth. Budgeting and Social Security reporting.
Yeah. Is that a fun thing?
No.
No, but it's essential, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's why we're talking about it today.
Sometimes I learned from working. Working between Halloween and New Year's are really hard. Always hire new people. They change my hours. I sometimes have to deal with cranky customers, coworkers, drama, and other stuff. But I work hard to keep my act together, and customers are always right and smile. I sometimes ask for job coaching to be available nearby if I need them.
Right. And you've been pretty good, especially at your new job. So
Yeah.
Remind everybody where you work now.
I work at Kohl's.
And what do you do?
I do Amazon.
Okay. And so you deal with customers every day.
Yeah. Sometimes
Some things.
some things I learned from working. I keep my job. I don't get laid off with the temporary staff. I get my old hours back after the holidays. And next year, I have plans to go to Carlsbad right after New Year's, and after helping the store get through the holiday rush, because the great work ethic and support staff that I trust helps me manage my monies. And I was able to buy a timeshare at a condo in Carlsbad,
All right. And what's that close to?
Legoland.
All right. Pretty cool, huh?
Social Security. What are my reporting responsibilities as a worker? So I have to continue turning in my pay stubs to Social Security so they don't take away a lot of money.
Yeah, it's really important, and we've made sure that we encourage you to do this, and you've done a good job.
Yeah.
That we encourage everyone to report your Social Security, your earnings to Social Security on a monthly basis. So that means you have to get copies of what?
Pay stubs.
Got to get copies of your pay stubs and bring them in. Okay, we recommend making copies. If you bring the originals, they might want to take them and you might not get them back, and you might need them for your own tax purposes. So make a copy and bring them in. They will, if you ask them, they will take them back and make copies, and you can wait while they do that. That is one option that you do have. Social Security doesn't want you to come in every month, but we encourage you to do so. We encourage you to bring them in every month so that it doesn't result in any type of overpayment. Okay. Many times, for example, you, Jareth, your work schedule fluctuates a little, right?
Yeah.
So how often do you find out your schedule?
So they post it, I think, every Thursday.
Okay, and do you know a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance? What do you know? How far in advance do you know your schedule?
Well, this job, it's kind of different than my past jobs. So I'm not really sure with this job that I'm working at right now.
Okay, but you know your schedule at least a week in advance, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes two?
Yeah, sometimes too, if the person that does the schedule is already done with the schedule.
Okay, all right. So at least a week in advance. But sometimes you work different days and different hours, correct?
Yeah.
So I think your schedule is a good example of a work schedule that his hours change month by month. Okay, it's not a set schedule. He doesn't work every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 9 to 4. He's got different hours and different shifts. They plug people in. And part of that flexibility, I think, is what they like about you.
Yeah.
And then also Jareth's able to put in requests so that he's got what are things you like to get time off for?
I like to get time off for my basketball tournament, Special Olympics, doctor's visits, vacations, and etc.
Yep. Okay. And you're able to put that in, and they're pretty good about your requests, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So because of that, his work earnings fluctuate, and that means that it's going to be important that Jareth reports his work earnings every month, so that they might be $100 more one month than it was last month and $100 less next month. But that way, Social Security has an accurate account of how much he's earned. If he doesn't submit that information every month, then what happens is at the end of the year, Social Security will go ahead and add up all the time he's worked. And if he worked more than what they thought, they'll give him a letter in the mail that says notice of overpayment, and you owe us this money. And how does that make you feel if you get one of those letters?
Mad, because I don't want to owe them money.
Right. So it's really important. And Social Security will say, oh, we don't want you to bring us paperwork every month because that's too much work for us. We've found that it's super important to do that regardless of what Social Security says. You report monthly. That way, it's through no fault of your own if they have overpaid you. And then if you get an overpayment letter and you've sent in your pay stubs every month, like Jareth does, then you can appeal their decision and say, Jareth already spent that money. On what?
Legos, food, UCLA stuff.
All the stuff you like.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Jareth can say, look, I already spent that money on rent and all my fun stuff. I don't have that money to pay you back. And it's not my fault that there's an overpayment, because I've reported all my wages every month. And if you didn't plug it into the computer, that means it's their fault, not your fault.
Yep.
And then we've been able to get these overpayments waived in the past. But again, it's our responsibility to assist if you're an agency or a family or a consumer that has a job. It's your job, your responsibility to turn in those pay stubs every month. Even though Social Security is saying, oh, don't turn it in. Turn it in. Okay. All right, so just elaborating a little bit on what our responsibilities are if you receive SSI or SSDI, and if you're working, then it's your responsibility to report any earned income. That means any income from a job that's over $65 a month. Okay, nothing will change until you earn over $85 a month, but that's on another slide. So income is counted, income for the month is counted based on the pay date of your paycheck. So for example, if Jareth worked the last 2 weeks in April, and how often do you get paid? Every week or every 2 weeks?
Every week.
Every week. So if Jareth worked the last week in April, his pay date might not be until May 1st. So even though you worked in April, if your pay date is May 1st, that counts as May income. So your income is not necessarily the days you worked, it's the day you got paid, the date that's on that pay stub. So generally on your pay stub, it will have a pay date. And that date is what month the income is counted in. So the Social Security Administration, again, they will not encourage you to report monthly, but it's important to encourage workers with disabilities to do so in order to avoid being responsible for any overpayments of SSI. And again, by reporting monthly like Jareth does, it becomes Social Security's responsibility to adjust your SSI benefits accordingly. And it's especially important, again, to file monthly when your work hours or income varies from week to week or month to month.
What's a money manager?
So what is a money manager?
Well, a money manager is somebody that takes care of your money that you trust.
Okay. And if you feel you need a money manager, or if you're a family member and you feel that your family member needs a money manager, this is something that you can request through the regional center. What happens with a money manager is that they will then become the representative payee for any Social Security benefits that includes either supplemental security income, SSI, or SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. Either one of those, they'll become the rep payee, and they will put that money into a separate account, and they will use that to pay your essential bills, which might be rent or utilities, stuff like that. And then you can request whatever money is left over after those essential bills have been paid. So a money manager is another resource that you can request through your regional center service coordinator. And again, we've supported some people whose families have always been worried, oh my goodness, this person's going to spend all their money on Legos and they're not going to pay their rent, and then they're going to be homeless, and oh my gosh, what are we going to do? That wouldn't be you, though.
No.
Okay. So in that event, they can have a little more peace of mind that they can pass on that responsibility to a regional center money manager, someone that's vendored through the regional center. Okay. So again, I think we just pretty much talked about everything on this slide already, but we want to make sure you know that a money manager is a resource for you.
What is a Bluebird card? And how do you use it? Well, it's like it's a card that it's an American Express card. And you could put money on it through the computer.
Okay, so what do you use so you have one, right?
Yes.
So this is just an option that has worked out well for Jared. So you have a money manager.
Yeah.
Through the regional center. And that person will monitor whatever benefits you have left over in Social Security from SSI or SSDI after your work earnings.
Yep.
And he still needs a little bit more money than that to finish paying for his utilities and for other things like that. But one of the things, Jareth, when it came to your monies from your job, did you want to give that money over to your money manager?
No.
Right. So you wanted to have more control over that, right?
Yes.
And you wanted access like that. You didn't want to have to wait a few days before you got that money.
Correct.
So you had to pick somebody you trusted, didn't you?
Yep.
And did you find someone?
Yeah.
Okay. So Jareth has someone that he trusts, and they set up together a Bluebird card, and you have your work earnings directly deposited into an account.
Yep.
And then that account is used to put money immediately as often as you need it onto your Bluebird card.
Correct.
So how do you use that? How do you make that work?
Well, I usually send a message or text message to the person, and I tell the person I need this amount on my card, and the person puts the money on my card.
So like what kind of things do you use it for?
So I use it to buy whatever I want.
All right, whether it's going out and getting a drink or using
Yeah.
it for Uber or whatever.
Even to buy a movie ticket, to go to the store if I need to buy something from the store. But I don't always have to use my hardworking money to for food, but I do sometimes use the card to buy more stuff that I want.
Okay. All right, because you also have a Cal Fresh,
Yeah, I have a Cal Fresh card.
and that helps too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and Erica's going to talk a little bit more about that later, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Bluebird card gives you a little bit more
Freedom.
choice and freedom. And one of the reasons I think you started that, is it okay we share a little bit?
Yeah, because I got somebody tried to take control of me over my monies.
So people were trying to mooch money off you years ago,
Yeah,
and you were too nice a guy.
yeah,
And this is a way to make sure that you didn't that didn't happen. You have like another party in there, and you just have to request it. You, even though you text and everything else,
Yeah.
that person can sort of make sure that, okay, that's good. You just can't give $100 to somebody because they say, oh, Jareth, I really need this money.
Yeah.
You know, so okay, very good. All right, so that's just another sort of a check and balance system that has worked out, I think worked out good for you, and still where you have control of your monies.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add?
You always have to with the Bluebird card, you always have to make sure to look at the expiry date, because it may there is a expiry date like other credit cards and debit cards and stuff. You always want to make sure you're up to date with make sure you're able to use it. If not, there's a 1-800 number on the back of the card, or you could look up the number on the internet if you have access to the internet.
And that's good. That way you can avert a crisis when it doesn't work by saying, uh-oh, this expires next month, I better get a new one.
Yeah.
And you can request that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a
And
really good one.
And if you lose it, they're really good about sending you a new one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you've got that number in your phone or something so you can call them?
No, it's on the back of the card.
Well, what if you lose your card?
Or you just Google Bluebird.
Oh, okay. All right. Google Bluebird and give it a call them then.
Yeah,
Hey, Jareth, I
yeah,
know every once in a while the American Express site goes down and Bluebird doesn't let you access stuff. Do you have a backup system?
yeah, I have a, whatchamacallit,
You can get it out.
it's, oh, Venmo card. So I have a Venmo card for backup.
Because
And
every
that-
once in a while, the American Express thing goes down.
Yeah, because they always like to update their system. And
Uh,
they don't tell you when they're gonna do it, they automatically do it. And that's really a pain in the butt. When they
okay.
when they don't tell you, because they just say, oh, the system's down for updates, and then the other person puts money on my Venmo card. So I have access to my money still.
Excellent. It's always good to have a backup plan.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Jareth. I think we're going to ask Erica to come in now.
All right.
Any questions for Jareth? Lori or Donna, if you're monitoring chat, let us know if you've got any questions.
I'm monitoring. I don't see anything yet.
Okay.
All right.
We'll call you back if you do. And I'm going to introduce Erica Schofield, who has worked with Avenues for
18 years.
18 years. All right. So, and Erica is our real go-to person regarding reporting responsibilities and making sure that everybody has their benefits updated. And she's going to talk a little bit more about that. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about this part, or you want me to go through this?
Yeah, maybe you go through this and
Okay.
we'll go through the other ones.
All right. So other things to report to the Social Security Administration is we want to make sure that you always let the Social Security Administration, that's SSA, always let them know when you have a job coach or a support staff that assists you with any needs that are related to your work. Usually if we use the word job coach, even if it's a family member, even if it's a support staff, a respite staff, a community living staff, a day program staff, if that person is supporting you with anything related to work, problem solving the schedule, problem solving how to get to work, figuring out a ride to work, problem solving how to talk to your employer or coworkers about issues that come up. It could be issues before and after work, not just on the job. But any type of coaching that you have, if you need some coaching due to your disability, we want to make sure that Social Security Administration knows that, because then they will know that you are receiving support that assists you at work as an accommodation due to your disability. And having a job coach is often allowed as a subsidy, especially if you receive Social Security disability insurance. And it's something that will allow them to recalculate how much you can earn. Okay, so again, support that you can receive related to the job may include on-the-job support like traditional job coaching. It could include getting ready or getting prepared for work, arranging or learning or scheduling transportation to and from work, support with work-related meetings, etc., as long as it's work-related. So again, we always encourage people to sign up once they turn 18. Once a person turns 18, they are considered to be an independent adult. Even if they're continuing to live with a family member, they should be eligible for SSI, since most 18-year-olds don't have a lot of income at that point. And we encourage you to sign up, even if you're a family member and you say, oh, I think my kid's fine, they don't really need the extra income. Sign them up anyhow, because then they'll have that. And once they get a job, it'll be adjusted down. Once you have a job and you have earned income, that may prevent you from being eligible to receive SSI in the future. So that's why we encourage you to apply for SSI before you're working full-time or close to full-time. Determining the amount of supplemental security income you receive is based on a lot of things. So the monthly amount is based on the category of placement. And usually your Social Security office will determine that when they interview you or your family for your eligibility. If you live with your parents, you get a certain amount of money per month. If you live independently, in other words, if you are renting an apartment, leasing an apartment or a condo or something, or paying, paying rent in your own place, then that's considered living independently. Even if you have a roommate providing you support, you will have the living independent category, and that will give you the highest amount. If you live in a group home or another licensed facility, you may be eligible for monthly personal and incidental income, usually a little over $100 a month. But the bulk of your SSI will then go towards the care provider to pay for the rent and the food and other things. Okay, it'll go towards that board and care. But once you move out of a group home, then that money will go directly to you, and you'll want to make sure you have an account to set up or do something similar to Jareth, or you may have another representative payee. It could be a family member or a money manager. Those are all options you can look into. Okay. And then if you have other, yes.
I'm sorry, if somebody is living with their parents but paying rent, that would be considered living independently, correct?
Yes. It's the higher amount.
Yes.
Yes.
If you're living with your parents and you're over 18 and you're paying rent to your parents,
Okay.
that counts as independent.
Yes.
Okay.
And so that's also something that we encourage, is that even if you're a parent and you say, oh, they don't need to pay me for rent or things like that, make sure they pay you for that rent. Make sure they pay you a portion for rent and utilities. Another thing we recommend is, even if you can put one of the utilities, even if it's just the cable bill, put one or more utilities in your adult child's name so that they can build up some credit. That way, eventually, when they do move out, they'll have a little bit of credit history. It's really difficult when people have no credit history at all to get utilities turned on for the first time. And they're often asked to put down a very substantial deposit.
And the discount they can get as well.
And yes, and also, yeah, I want to talk about
Yes,
that.
so you could get a discount for Edison. It's called CARE. So usually anybody on SSI or SSDI usually qualifies for that. So that's why it's best to put it under your child's name, adult child.
And that way you get a monthly discount.
Yeah, monthly discount of, it's about 30%. Depending where you live.
Now, for people receiving supplemental security income, this is a tough one. You're only able to maintain assets of $2,000, and those assets are considered monies in your bank account. If you have a savings and a checking account, it's the total of both combined. They also include any other accounts or stocks or bonds as part of those assets. In order to continue receiving SSI, you want to try to spend that money down so that you only have that much in your account. If you want to save for things like moving out for the first time, or if you want to save for some big projects, maybe a wheelchair accessible vehicle or something like that, there's a couple of options we're going to talk about in a few minutes that will allow you to save more money without impacting your SSI. Owning your own home or the vehicle you use to get to work does not count. These do not count as assets so long as you're living in the home you own. For family members, Social Security will interview you usually every year or so to see if income has changed. So be wary of reporting gifts to your adult children. It's incredible. We've had situations where Social Security will ask, did you give any of your adult children any gifts for Christmas, like raincoats or clothing or things like that. And if they're receiving SSI, your standard reply should be, they use their SSI to purchase those things. Because if you say, yes, I purchased my son's clothes, they'll say approximately how much is that per month? And they'll label that as a gift. They'll count that as a gift that your adult son or daughter received, and they'll deduct that from their Social Security income, supplemental security income. So be careful about that. That's why it's another good thing, as Lori sort of jumped in a minute ago to say, is that it's important to assist your adult sons and daughters to pay for their own things with their SSI that they receive. Now, if you've gone through the process of setting up a special needs trust, assets in a special needs trust do not count as individual assets, since the disabled individual does not have control over those assets. But it does cost a bit of money, several $1,000s, to set that up with a legal firm. And if you're interested in finding out more about special needs trust, contact your local regional center, and they can give you a list of agencies or providers that will set up a special needs trust. So work incentives for supplemental security income, you can earn $85 a month before any benefits are affected. Then for every dollar you earn over $85, your supplemental security income benefit will decrease by 50 cents. For example, if you earned $185 last month, then your monthly benefit will decrease by $50 because you earned 100 over 85, cut that in half. When you get a calculator and do the math, that's what it comes out to. One of the challenges with the Social Security system is that any changes to your SSI will not take place until 2 months after reporting. So that means it'll take 2 months for your Social Security to go down once you get a job to be adjusted. The other problem is that once you lose your job, it's important to report that right away, because it will also take 2 months before the income is adjusted back up. Impairment-related work expenses, IRWE, may allow you to keep more of your SSI benefit. Okay, and we'll talk about some of the things, including if you pay any money for transportation to and from work, if you pay a TAP card, or if you pay for dial-a-rider for access services, then that money, if it's related to getting to and from work, then you can deduct that as an impairment-related work expense.
Scott, we do have 2 questions. I'm not sure how many slides they go back, so can.
Okay.
All right,
You
so
want to read them?
Sharon, I'm going to ask you to unmute and you can ask your question, and then Roman, you're next.
Yeah. You have to unmute her because they are automatically muted.
Go ahead, Sharon.
Okay, I was unable to, so my chat says that it's disabled, and so I can't ask questions.
Oh,
So I just wanted you to know that.
You
So
can put it in the Q&A, I think.
there's no Q&A either, Scott. Let me allow
Okay.
participants to chat. Thank you very much. Okay, the chat should be open now, everyone.
thank you. So that's why no questions. So thank you so much.
Okay, thanks. And Roman, go ahead.
You have to unmute them. Lori.
I did. I asked him to unmute.
Oh,
Go ahead. We hear you.
oh. I have a personal assistant in the bathroom right now.
Oh, so you want to ask your question later?
Whoops, I forgot the question.
That's all right. When you remember,
okay,
go
Roman.
ahead and put it in the chat or raise your hand again.
Okay,
All right.
who pays for the money manager? Put the question in the chat, please.
Oh, no, that's okay. Who pays
That's a
for the money
good
manager?
one. So you can request a money manager.
Who pays for the money manager?
You can request it through the regional center. So the money manager is a vendor and the regional center will pay for that person.
Thank you.
You
Huh?
bet. And another thing that even if you begin working full-time and you make so much money that you don't even have $1 left of SSI, you are able to continue your Medi-CAL insurance, even if you earn too much to receive any SSI, so long as you use that Medi-CAL at least once a year for your needs. Okay, so we encourage you to use it for something, find something to use it for. Because if you don't use it, then they're going to assume you don't need it. But make sure that you use that Medi-CAL at least once a year, and that's part of the Social Security Administration Law 1619A and B. Also called the Pickle Amendment.
Yeah, that's right.
So again, additional protections in the Supplemental Security Income Program. SSI program has several work incentives built into the program that can be used to help an individual who is working to keep more of their income. And we've talked about both these a little bit already. One is the student earned income exclusion. And that's for people that you've got to be attending school, either college or grade school, and be under the age of 22. But then it excludes that income that we had on the previous slide. And if there are other impairment-related work expenses, expenses that you incurred due to your disability that you pay for, you can keep those receipts and itemize them and submit them to Social Security as impairment-related work expenses. CalAble is different. We're going to talk about CalAble in just a second, Sharon. Okay. So some of the Ticket to Work programs that are national programs that are implemented to assist people with disabilities to become employed. These are some of the incentives that are available. One is the PASS plan, or a plan for achieving self-support. And through this and a Ticket to Work, a PASS plan must be submitted and approved by the Social Security Administration prior to implementation. But we know of people that have used a PASS plan that have put it together with Social Security Administration to say, hey, I want to move out for the first time from my parents' house, but I'm going to need $2,000 to put on a down payment for first and last on an apartment, or I might need more than that. And if I can't save up that money because you're going to cut me off my SSI, I won't be able to afford it. So a PASS plan will allow you to save some of those work earnings into your account and not be penalized for the assets. Okay, so you'll be able to save over $2,000 to do that. Other people have said, I want to purchase a wheelchair accessible van, but that's going to be thousands of dollars, or I want to modify an existing vehicle to make it more accessible. And if you want to do that, you can request that through a PASS plan. And once Social Security Administration approves that, then you'll be allowed to save more money than just that $2,000 as part of your PASS plan. But each PASS plan is sort of individualized and separate. It's based on one specific thing, one or two specific things. And then after that, you can ask for another PASS plan for another project you might want to save for. We talked about impairment-related work expenses, or IRWEs, sometimes people call them. And those are things that the person pays for that may be deducted from your monthly earnings prior to calculating those deductions from your SSI. For example, fees paid for access services rides to and from work and necessary doctor appointments. We've actually gotten those approved to say, hey, Scott has a mental health appointment. He has to keep that every month and he needs to pay for the ride to go to and from the appointment. And he needs that mental health visit to keep his job, to keep his medications he needs, to keep my mental health good so I can continue working. And so that might be a round trip on access that might cost me $4, but hey, you can deduct that. Okay. And Heather, good. We're going to talk about SSDI in a couple minutes. And the Social Security disability insurance, yes, it's important to make sure Social Security knows that you have a job coach. We'll talk more about that. And again, the student earned income exclusion. Again, this allows a person who's under the age of 22 and regularly attending school to exclude earnings from income. So earnings of up to $1,870 per month to a maximum of $7,550 per year for students under the age of 22. And that has continued into 2023, that amount. That may actually increase next year. And then ABLE accounts will give you a little more information on these. This will allow a person with a disability to save up to save $15,000 per year, up to $100,000 total in a special account if approved. And this account will not be considered an asset against your benefits. It's very easy to sign up for CalAble or to see if it's right for you or to see if you're eligible by going to the link we have below. And that is www.calable.ca.gov. And you can just answer pretty simple questions online to see if you're eligible. And Roman, great question. Roman says, if we lose a job, can we be able to get back on SSI?
Yes. Yes, definitely.
The answer is definitely yes. However,
It's a
it will take at least 2 months. Remember, so after you stop working, it'll take 2 months after you report that you've lost your job for the income to go back up again. Just like it'll take them 2 months when you start your job before your income is reduced based on your work earnings. They're always at least 2 months in arrears or 2 months behind. And although we mentioned it before, we need to mention it again. If you have a job loss, if you either leave your job, if you quit, if you're terminated, laid off, if your employment stops or significantly is decreased, it's important to report that to your local Social Security Administration office ASAP.
in writing.
In writing, not just over the phone.
Yeah, in writing. With your name, your social security number, your last day that you worked. And then you just drop it off in there. It's better to take it in, hand deliver it.
And sometimes they even require, I know our Santa Clarita office in the past has required when we have people that have seasonal jobs, for example, we have some people that do bell ringing. They've asked that the last pay stub, that there's a letter or notice from the employer saying this is their final paycheck.
Yes.
Because we had problems with one person that worked a seasonal job as a bell ringer, which you would think, okay, that goes through the holidays and then it pretty much stops in December. But Social Security kept plugging it into the computer through February, March, April, May. And they kept saying he has this income. And we said, no, he hasn't had that job since December. We told you, we shared it with you, but it was still stuck in the computer and it messed up what he was getting. And we had to do some advocacy with that.
So the best thing would be to type up the letter yourself if you can, and then just take it to your previous employer and have them sign it and stamp it. That way you're not waiting on them to write the letter, because you might never get it.
And Sharon has a good question. Do you need an appointment to drop this information off?
No, you just walk in, depending what social security office you go to, but here in Santa Clarita, you just walk in, turn left past security, and there's a sign that says drop box, and you just put it in there, but you have to make sure that you always have your full social security number on there.
Or inside the envelope?
Yeah, on the letter or inside, if you drop in an envelope, but if you just drop off the letter, then just on there,
Any tips on Antelope Valley office?
I haven't been to that one, but I'm sure it might be similar.
Okay. All right, okay, this is a duplicate.
I wouldn't mail it either. If you can actually walk in, that would probably be the best.
Okay. All right, and I'm going to share just a little bit on the difference between Social Security disability insurance, also known as SSDI or SSA. This comes from federal government from previous earnings. It might be Social Security disability insurance that comes from a relative, a family member, a parent that has either passed away or retired. And you may be, when you become eligible for that, you may be eligible for a monthly amount. This can be paired with SSI, but sometimes the amounts of each will impact each other until Social Security Administration adjusts how much you can or should be getting. So if you receive SSDI and have a job, Social Security has something that they call a trial work period. And this is usually 9 months or 9 consecutive months, what they want of working, but it can be 9 varied months of working. You can earn as much as you want for 9 months and retain your full SSDI amount. In 2023, any month that you earn a minimum of $1,050 before taxes, either $1,050 or more, will be considered a trial work period month. Now, one thing that's important for us to realize, for those of us that are involved in the regional center system, people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, we know that an intellectual or developmental disability is a lifelong disability. Social Security has different guidelines. Social Security figures if you can earn over $1,050 a month for non-consecutive months, then they believe that you no longer have a disability. Wouldn't that be wonderful? But in reality, many people, I would say many of the people we support for sure, are receiving some support through a regional center funded agency, through a coach, through other people to assist them as an accommodation to their disability to help them be successful on the job. And it's important that Social Security understand if you have any of these accommodations. And these accommodations include a job coach. If you have a coach that doesn't have to be paid by you, but if it's paid by, let's say, the regional center or Department of Rehab, if it's through a support agency, if you have a staff helping you through a support agency, that is a paid staff that's assisting you to maintain the job. It's very important that Social Security Administration knows that, so they know how to categorize that. The number of people with disabilities that Social Security Administration sees on a regular basis is very large. And our population of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities is only a very small percentage of the people they see. The majority of people that get assistance through Department of Rehabilitation and that are able to receive some of the Social Security benefits have a temporary disability. And that's why the wording in many of their regulations stipulates things like if you can work for 9 months and earn over $1,050, you no longer have a disability. So it's our job to help remind Social Security that it's only because of the additional supports and accommodations that are paid through regional center services that help assist this person to maintain their employment. That way, these coaches can be considered what we call a subsidy. And that can be claimed against your income so that you can continue to be allowed to earn your SSDI benefits. So, okay, so down below here, we're in 2023 now. So the gross amount per month you can earn is 1,470. So I did update. I did this late last year and didn't take out the 2022 part. So good news, it did go up. Okay, I'm going to give you a different face now. I'm going to let
Okay.
Erica share.
Hey, okay, so maintaining Medi-CAL benefits. So basically, every year you get a packet in the mail. It's very important that you turn in the paperwork before the actual due date if you don't want to be on hold for 2 hours, but you're going to need your check stubs if you're working, any award letters that you might have from Social Security, rent receipts if your rent changes. If you do get Social Security, and like Scott mentioned earlier, you could qualify for PICL if you have extra income, and that would just be a different form that you would fill out for that. But it's just very important to make sure that you maintain that every year. So as soon as you get that packet, fill it out. And then if you responsibility. So then if you do move, you have 10 days to report any changes. So you do want to do that. As soon as you move, you type a letter. A lot of times now everything's done through the portal. It's better to upload everything and not send stuff separately. So if you're doing your redetermination, make sure that you have everything ready. Your award letter, your rent, if that's changed, a copy of your ID, your paycheck stubs. Usually it's on your document, it will give you a reporting month. So on there, you would put the two, I will say, okay, we need May pay stubs or April pay stubs, but make sure that you include all of them, because anything that is missing will cause a delay. And then usually it's just a big mess to try and fix it. So
Do you recommend you keep a copy of what you submit?
yes, so always keep copies. Now with their new portal, it actually it looks like they maintain the files that you uploaded, but yes, it's always good to keep everything just in case they say they didn't receive it. So if you lose your job, you would also report that. A lot of times you usually qualify, either you're going to qualify or you're not. So if you lose your job, you've already qualified. So there's really nothing you have to make that change for.
So you just let them know that you lost the job so that the benefits need to be reinstated.
Yes, if you don't have the benefits, then definitely, yes, you can apply at any time.
And I think we covered a lot of the rest already. And he says, if you are in a residential placement, Sharon's asking, and FACT is a third party payee. So FACT is the representative payee through the regional center. It's one of the money managers. Are they responsible for this process? The answer is they should be, but you're asking, are they, or will they take that responsibility? It says, does the regional center report address changes when placement changes of the third party payee? We have, although we would hope that maybe the regional center would help out, usually they don't. In the past, even when regional center was a representative payee for some folks at one point, I don't think they do that much anymore, but there were some challenges that resulted in some, we had to recoup some funds for some people or assist them and advocate for some people to recoup some funds because people weren't on top of that. So it's important, I think, in every agency. I mean, Erica is one of our go-to persons for sure, that is the watchdog and the stand on hold person. And
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it's very important to make sure you submit everything on time, because it will take hours to try and fix it. And if you can, and a lot of times too, if you don't report your address change, then you never get the packet. So by the time, you know, you go to the doctor, you're like, your Medi-CAL has been terminated. You don't know why. And one of the reasons is because you didn't submit that packet in on time. So that's why it's very important. Once you renew, you'll know when your renewal will be up. So say, you know, July every year it's due. So you can even go into the portal and look at it that way, and it'll show you when the due date is.
so just going back again to answer a little bit of Sharon's question there, Sharon. No, I'm just going to share something that I think it's important that first of all, we have to realize that the individual consumer and their family, or, you know, that person's living situation, whenever a living situation changes and they change addresses, we've got to assist them with that responsibility to make sure they report that to the regional center worker, because sometimes, you know, maybe we forgot to tell the service coordinator. We want to make sure we tell the regional center service coordinator. We want to make sure we tell that money manager immediately. Usually the money manager will be involved because it might involve rent checks and deposits and things like that. So usually that money manager should be involved. But it doesn't hurt to remind them to say, did you notify Social Security of the change of address? And when there's a change of address, they'll also ask, did any of their support needs change? Are they moving into a facility, or are they paying their own rent? Because that'll impact the amount of money or how that money is received.
So some of her questions also, regional center does not directly communicate with Social Security unless it's to fill out a form that Social Security is requesting. FACT and the other money managers are the ones who are supposed to pass on information to the Social Security. And yes, so those packets, they go to the address of record, which in this case is almost for sure FACT's address. And FACT may indeed fill out the paperwork on time, and they sometimes will get a new Medi-CAL card and just put it in a file and not necessarily pass it on to the person either. And I'm not just bagging on FACT. I mean, the money managers don't always follow through in a way that the providers or caretakers would think would be the logical thing to do. There is a portal, so it may be that FACT is willing to give you, as the residential placement or even as the day program provider, a link
Or as a family member.
or
Yeah.
a family member, a link to that portal so that you can also follow along and submit information. For people who live in the independent living, one of the first ways that we find out that the paperwork has not been submitted or that it hasn't been processed, because sometimes Erica submits things that don't get processed also, is that the IHSS workers will call us and say, hey, I'm not allowed to fill out my timesheet. What happened? And so if it's not the IHSS worker, then it's the pharmacy. And if it's not the pharmacy, then it's the doctor. But by the time we find out, at that point, it's too late. Now Erica or whoever, FACT, is going to be on the phone for hours and hours trying to straighten it out. Family members cannot be paid to be money managers, at least not through traditional services. The money managers are paid vendors. But if the person is in the self-determination program and they are over 18, I believe their family member could be paid to do those money management type services. The Medicaid waiver form is a form that Regional Center uses with the federal government to show Medicaid waiver eligibility, which is how the federal government matches the 50% of what the state government pays. So that's a different form. The packet that Erica is referring to right now is a Medi-CAL renewal packet. It's actually a pretty thick stack of papers, but most of them are just notification things like, do you want to vote? And here's the 37 different languages that we can give you this paperwork in. It's really only maybe 4 or 5. Well, if it's large print, it's probably like 8 or 10 pages, but regular print is about 4 or 5 pages. The trick is not filling it out. The trick is making sure you attach the bank statements and the award letter and the pay stubs and everything that they're asking for.
All at once.
Yeah. So I don't know if that answered both Mary and Sharon's questions, but.
There's a thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
Sharon's was answered. Okay, go ahead.
So as parents and adults with developmental disabilities age,
If the worker's parents or if they themselves have paid into Social Security system through the work earnings, the individual will become eligible for SSDI, which is Social Security Disability. Usually once one or both parents retire or pass away. So that would also be the money manager that helps.
the money manager could help if they don't do it. One other thing just on the money manager, if you're, usually the money manager will receive any correspondence from Social Security if they're the rep payee. But also the individual with the disability should get a copy as well. We've also requested with a money manager that some of our folks utilize, we've just asked, please, if you get anything, can you just take a picture, give us a copy, text us a copy, email us a copy of what you get. That way we can sort of help follow up too. And that we find to be helpful.
And then you also need it when you're reporting benefit changes.
Erica, there's a question about the initial process for applying for SSI.
What documentation do they require for initial?
So you can actually, there's a lot of questions. So you could do the application, you could start the application online, but they'll ask for your, your name, your address, your social, your school, what school did you go to? Did you attend regular school? Did you attend special ed? Do you work? Can you use a microwave? So can you use a stove? So there's just a ton of questions that you would have to answer. But the first step is you can actually create an account online and be able to do the application from there. But there's just so many. There's a lot of questions there that you would have to answer. Are you on medication? Do you see a doctor? Do you see a psychiatrist?
If the person is just coming of age, just becoming 18, oftentimes the first piece of thing they're going to look for is the IEP.
Yes,
that's
also right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if you are connected with the regional center, it's often helpful to just get a cover letter from them stating that you are a consumer of, for example, North LA County Regional Center and qualifies based on the disability of blank. And just something that simple, they know that the regional center has already gone through the process of ensuring the diagnosis, that you qualify, things like that. So that's just another thing that can be helpful
And then they will, at some point in the process, require you to see an independent doctor of some sort. It might be a psychiatrist if you're saying it's mental health issues. It might be a physical doctor. It may be a specialist like an orthopedist or something. And it's very often more than one doctor visit. It's imperative that you keep those appointments, that you're on time, that you're cooperative, because those are ways that they hit the denial button so fast if you don't show up.
Yes, and they will schedule an appointment before they approve any benefits. You will have to see a doctor.
So Sharon is being very specific to fact, and because this is being recorded and it's going to be statewide, I think Sharon, maybe give us a call. Send an email to cieinfo@avenuessls.org. We do work with FACT. We do have some answers for you, but I think this may not be the venue to talk about it. Okay, cieinfo@avenuessls.org. I'll put it in the chat.
Oh, okay. Okay, so IHSS, so anybody that receives Medi-CAL is eligible for IHSS. So that would be the first step if you want to get in. IHSS is in-home supported services, which could help you hire someone to help you with your laundry, your medication, take your doctor appointments, do your cleaning, showering, bathing. There's a lot of services it can be used for, but before you can qualify for those benefits, you have to be a Medi-CAL recipient. So you have to make sure that you go through the Medi-CAL process first. And then also, if you have somebody in mind, they can apply to be your provider through IHSS and help you with those things.
And then another thing that is more recent for IHSS, well, not more recent, over the last 10 years for sure, a lot of advocacy went into ensuring that an IHSS worker may also be needed to assist as an accommodation on the job. If someone needs help in the restroom, if somebody needs help with some personal assistance things at lunchtime, for example, things like that, your IHSS worker may actually be able to work in your workplace to assist you with some personal assistance needs that you may have at work. So that is something that that can happen as well. And in the past, IHSS only wanted, I'm saying 20 years ago now, they were pretty specific about only wanting those duties to be performed in the person's household. But now they realize that, hey, people are working, people go on a vacation, they still need those personal assistance needs, and they should be able to be provided through their IHSS worker. And that is happening. So this is when you apply. So when you apply for IHSS for the first time, if you do, you want to focus on your worst day. What do you need on your worst day? What are your support needs, or what, when you need help with breakfast? Even though you might say, I've had people say, oh, I can fix my own breakfast. Well, how often do you without support? Well, not very often. How come? Because I have some issues with my disability that prevents me from fixing my own breakfast every morning. So I need somebody to help me. That's what you need to focus on. Because if you tell your IHSS intake person that you can do everything, then you're not going to get any hours.
Yes.
So make sure you focus on the days when you do need help. What do you need?
And they will come over for your first intake before they even approve anything. They'll come over and they'll ask a lot of questions. And that's one of them. The meals, laundry, can you do your laundry? How many loads can you do? And most of the time, yeah, you can throw a load in there, but that's about it. So you need to be specific on how many loads you're going to be doing, and are you able to do all those loads? Because that's going to depend on the hours that they're going to be providing. also, if you need help in the bathroom, then you need to make sure that you also tell them that. Don't be embarrassed because you need those hours so your assistant can help you.
Right. And even that personal assistance, again, may even be necessary in when you're working at a job setting.
Okay, so other resources, yes, everybody that turns 18 or even before 18 should have a California ID. And that's a must for any benefits that you're applying for. They're definitely gonna need a copy of that, a copy of. Yeah, and for a job, yeah, for a job, right? And just for anything, you need that California ID or driver's license if you can get that. And then your social security card, that's also pretty common because they do ask for that, especially at the social security office. You really need a copy of that card. And then applying for any type of benefits. And then CalFresh is another benefit for anybody that's, well, let me see if I can word this correctly. So if you're over 18 and don't live at home, you can qualify for CalFresh benefits. If you're under 22 and still live at home, you won't be able to qualify for that benefit. But if you're out of the home, then yes, as soon as you turn 18, if you're living outside your home, it's good to apply. That's extra food money that you would get to buy groceries. And then that's almost the same process as Medi-CAL, you know, the paycheck stubs, the award letters and all of that. But again, you have to be over 18 and not living at home, or over 22 and then living at home and paying rent, you would qualify also. And then have a library card. Your cell phone, so also for low income, there's a program where you can either get a free cell phone or California Lifeline, which is a landline phone. So you can't do both, you can do either one. And right now, they're actually also offering free tablets that you can get. Even if you have the free cell phone, you can still qualify for a free tablet with Wi-Fi. And let's see, your checking account, ATM card. You know, if you're, one of the things also, if you're applying for benefits and you have a checking account or a saving, I think it's more with checking, try not to have people send you Zelle money, because then the DPSS department, you know, the CalFresh and Medi-CAL people, they want to know why you're receiving this money. And it's just harder to, it could affect your benefits basically. Because now, you know, if your cousin sends you money or your mom's sending you money, they want to know why you're getting this money. And they
may look at that as
Yes.
a gift, and they may look at that as income,
right?
instead of, hey, they're just paying me back for 20 bucks I gave them last week.
Yeah. So, and at the end of the month, a lot of little 20s and 30s and 40s add up. So if your family member is going to give you money for anything, it's better to just do a cash, you know, if they can give you cash money instead, because when you apply for benefits, they actually want your last bank statement. But what they also do is they call the bank to get balances. They have some way of electronically getting your balances, because when you apply, you give them permission, because you're not really supposed to have like all this money if you're getting benefits. So
another thing to be careful for.
Yeah.
And then Roman had said, so Roman, you had one question first about CalFresh, you're living at home. And I think you said, Erica, that if he's living at home with parents and he's over to age 22.
Yes, he can qualify. But if you're under 22, you won't qualify.
Okay. And then go to this calfresh.org and you can sign up right there. And then for the free phone, you would go through you would go through California Lifeline.
Yeah, for the California Lifeline, yes, but like for the cell phone also, you can do the California Lifeline. That just takes longer. It takes like 4 weeks, but typically, there's a lot of free cell phone vendors. I don't know if most of you are from AV, but Antelope Valley has them everywhere. So one of the places is right in front of the DPSS on Avenue K. There's always vendors out there in the valley, by the Walmart, in that mall over there by in Van Nuys. They have like 6.
Roscoe and Van Nuys.
Yes, so they have about six vendors there. Here, I just found one. And then
Here in Santa Clarita.
in Santa Clarita, yes. And then they have the phones there on hand. So as long as you come with your award letter or even show a Medi-CAL card, you're able to get the phone within 30 minutes.
Vicky's saying in front of the DPSS office in Santa Clarita.
No, not the one.
Oh, Vicky says yes. Same thing in this one,
There.
in Santa Clarita. Vicky
Oh.
Berry says yes.
Well, I don't know if the guy's there because I haven't seen him. That's where he used to be a couple years ago, but since COVID, unless he set up again. Oh, great. Okay, so he's back.
Okay, they set up tents in the parking lot.
Yes, so the other place is right next to the food pantry on Railroad. The gal there also sets up. But that's good to know about Santa Clarita. Okay.
And then we talked, other simple things. Teaching people, make sure they have the skills to open a checking account or use an ATM card. We love ATM card as opposed to the old checking accounts because the ATM will only take money out that you got in there. And it's easier to sort of use that.
No. Okay.
So, and then, even when students are younger, when they're K through 12, even having an allowance for doing chores, things like that, so that people learn that money gets you stuff, paychecks get you money, and even having part-time jobs. We've talked before, even jobs that are only a few hours a week can be very, very instrumental in people learning that, hey, I get a paycheck, I get to use it on something, I get to buy stuff I want. And that will help improve the likelihood that they're going to have further employment and more gainful employment in the future. Erica talked about IHSS, regional center services. If you're here, hopefully, if you have a developmental disability, you're already connected. And also apply for Department of Rehab, DOR services to open a case. That should happen generally while you're still in school, prior to graduation. As we talked about last week, it's important to apply even 2 years before you graduate, even though they try to put you off till the last semester. But especially if you're looking at attending any college classes that might be related to a job or vocational classes, or to have some employment experiences while you're still in school or even during the summer.
More generic resources, so access, dial-a-ride. You can apply for those as well with discounts. And then, so Lifeline, we already went over that. Section 8 housing. Well, right now, the Section 8 is not open. It was open.
In LA.
Limited, oh.
It is open in some other counties.
It's
'cause
open in other
people
counties, but LA
Okay.
County and City of LA do not have an open list at this point. They only have emergency vouchers if you are homeless. So that's quite a challenge. We are working behind the scenes on advocating for some other options that will assist people with that.
There is a lot of low income housing units. I know Antelope Valley has like 10 of them. There's like 5 in Lancaster, about 5 in Palmdale. The waiting list is 2 to 5 years. Santa Clarita also has some low income housing units, which the waiting list right now is 3 to 5 years. It seems well, recently, one of the units out here did change their regulations. So after 2 years, they actually remove you from the list if you don't get called. So you actually have to go in and get your name on the list again. So if you type in, if you're looking for low income housing units in Antelope Valley, all you have to do is type in low income housing units, and it'll give you a variety of locations where you can go in and fill out an application. Utility discounts is the care. So a lot of like Southern California Edison and the gas, they have discounts where it ranges from 20% to 30%. So you could call them, and if you're not on it now, just call them and request an application. Repairs and accommodations. Yeah, that would be, you could check your local senior center for more resources for extra money for stuff that you might need.
Oh, the last thing here, we didn't talk about this, right? Did we talk about food banks?
Oh yeah, so there's also a lot of food banks right now that you can actually, about 2 years, so before COVID, they would ask for your SSI or paycheck stubs. Right now, they're not asking for any of that. They're not asking for proof of it. So when you go to the food bank, you just give them your information, how many people in the household, and what your income is, and they'll definitely be able to help you with food. There is a variety of those places. In Santa Clarita, we have 4. There's 2 that you would actually have to pay like $8, but they give you 2 weeks worth of food, which is good. So it's great.
And then the last one, this is something that we use for JP.
Yes.
And
yes,
so
yes.
for years, we had a gentleman that that we supported that lived in his own apartment. He lived in group homes. It didn't work. He got into fights with people, didn't like group homes. He wanted his own place, but he needed support every day. And we worked with the regional center to give him a shot at having his own apartment. And that's what worked out. But one of the things, since it was very, very difficult for him to make ends meet, he didn't have the skills to use any of the stove or anything like that. He would just use a microwave. And we found out that if you do not have access to cooking facilities, if you only have a hot plate or a microwave, your SSI monthly amount can actually be increased a little bit over $100 a month. So we worked with the landlord to disconnect his stove so that it was not working. So the landlord could honestly say to Social Security, and we could say, he does not have a stove that he uses. He only has a microwave. And he was able to get a higher SSI amount because with the part-time work that he did, it was still just, he was barely making it ends meet. So this was very, very important for him to enable him to get enough money because as he developed diabetes over the years, he needed some additional support in preparing those meals. And he was able to use that to buy specialty things and that would help him with that. And that extra SSI money really helped out. But that's a little known thing, that if people don't have access to an oven or to cooking facilities, again, other than a hot plate or a microwave, you can request a higher SSI amount for people that live in their own place.
Scott, we had an earlier question from Miriam. I answered it briefly in the chat, but she was asking, can someone who has protective supervision
With
also
IHSS.
be employed?
Yes.
With IHSS, absolutely.
Yes.
Now, one of the things that we
Talk slow.
yeah, oh, well, let's tackle this one first. So we've been doing some trainings with some of the service coordinators and the staff at the North LA County Regional Center. We've only met with the San Fernando Valley folks thus far. We've had 3 meetings with them. And one of the things we really talk about is the fact that people that need and require 24-hour support are certainly capable of having jobs. And in fact, if somebody needs additional support or needs, let's say, somebody to be with them all the time, maybe due to their communication, their behavior, or their medical needs, we can work with the regional center to say, well, hey, that's that one-to-one or that person they need, that can be a job coach. So certainly people can work if they have a desire, if they're interested in making more money. And in fact, many of the people, in fact, if you go back, our first webinar a few weeks ago, Heather has been on the job at 2 places where she's had a job coach every minute that she's been there, at both Edwards Theater and at Marshall's. And she's worked at both of those jobs for over 20 years. And Heather has protective supervision in IHSS as well. So absolutely, people we found that if we make the right job match, and again, we're going to talk a lot about job match next week. So please tune in next Wednesday. But if we have the right job or environmental match where people can, if it's really suited to them, if they want to be indoors or outdoors, standing or sitting, moving or not moving, around a lot of people or not too many. Those are things we're going to look at next week to help identify what's a good job match for people to help promote successful employment outcomes. And we find that people that have historically had some tremendous behavior or communication challenges, if we match them up in an environment that works well for them, they do exceedingly well on a job. And Heather's a great example of that. So we just want to finish up talking a little bit on Cal Able accounts. Whoops. And then Mary, you have a question. If the special needs applicant for SSI is turning 18 and already has regional center services, IHSS will they expedite the process?
No.
You still got to go through Social
Yeah, you
Security.
still have to go through the process.
The only thing that might be helpful, like I said, is if they need more determination, getting a cover letter from the regional center saying you're a consumer, that can sometimes help, because then they automatically know that the regional center has had to vet you through the diagnostic process already to make you qualify. That can be helpful. I will usually, when I go into a meeting with either IHSS, with Social Security, I will usually let them know that the person is a consumer of a regional center that has a developmental disability. And half the time, at least, they know what that means. The other half they don't, and it's not helpful. But okay.
They're not going to waive the independent doctor visits. They're not going to
They're not.
waive any piece of paper. You
No.
are still going to have to step through every step of the process, regardless of how obvious it is to the rest of the world that they qualify. And
But
Vicky is agreeing that it takes.
I try not to tick the people off, because unfortunately these people have almost the power of God in their hands. It's like, if they don't like you or you come across wrong, they'll just put it at the bottom of their pile. It's really sad, but that's what
And
happens.
Vicky from the Family Focus Resource Center is agreeing that there is no shortcut, that it
Yeah,
will
there
take 4 to
isn't.
5 months.
And in the end, the doctor really is the one that says the ultimate go, or.
Gotta have the
not
doctor to
go.
sign off.
Yeah,
Mhm.
There, yeah, that's.
All right, so beginning in 2018, California Able accounts have been available to people who acquired significant disabilities prior to the age of 26. These accounts allow a greater amount of control over personal finances than ever before, as funds in the Able accounts do not jeopardize access to important benefits like SSI or Medi-CAL, and they don't require that a trustee be involved in transactions or administration of the account. The basic rules are that anyone can deposit up to $15,000 per year. You can have up to $100,000, and again, it'll take quite a few years to get that, but if you have that money to put in, you can have up to $100,000 in your account without jeopardizing your benefits from SSI or SSDI. Money in the Cal Able account must be spent on qualified disability expenses or may be subject to taxes. Expenses can include your rent, mortgage of the home you live in, education or home services, in-home services, medical needs, accessible vehicle. And again, just to double check, it's a pretty easy process. If you're good on the computer, people have said that, you know, it should only take you 5 or 10 minutes to go through the questions. It's a pretty simple process, and it's calable.ca.gov.
Roman would like a little more clarification, Erica, about how the cell phone service works, who pays for it.
Yes.
If you're low income and you have Medi-CAL or CalFresh, SSI, the state actually pays for your phone service. And that,
They will only pay for they'll either pay for a landline
or a cell
or a
phone.
cell phone, but not both.
But not both. And once you're approved, then it's good for 1 year. So you won't have any payments for 1 year. And then you just have to make sure that you renew the application, because if you don't, they will terminate your service and you'd have to start all over with the new number. But
And you can't use your current phone number. They will give you a number and they will give you a phone.
yes.
So
And
go ahead.
And in order to keep the phone active, you have to make sure that you use it at least once a month. If you don't use it, they will cancel it. Even if it's just one quick phone call to whoever.
Okay, we talked a little bit about past plan before, so this is just a little additional information about a past plan. Again, it's a plan for achieving self-support. This is a plan that you would work on, develop, and get approved with your Social Security Administration if you want to save more than the $2,000 that they usually limit you to have in assets. Okay, and we shared all this already. You can get more information at the Social Security website or at your local Social Security office. But this is a really, it's a real good plan. It's been operational for decades. That has allowed people to save more assets to be able to purchase something or use it for something that is essential in their life. So a couple of myths that we just want to also cover before we let you go. The first myth about working, and somebody actually asked this, I think already, if I work, I will lose my SSI or my SSDI benefits, where in reality, my SSI or supplemental security income will reduce with the more money that I make. Again, 50 cents for each dollar I earn over 85 a month. But I will always make more money with my paycheck combined with the SSI that I'm eligible to keep than if I don't work. Myth number two, if I work, I will lose my Medi-CAL or Medicare benefits. In reality, there are safeguards built into both supplemental security income and Social Security disability insurance to help preserve your health insurance. For SSI, there's 1619B, the Pickle Amendment, and for SSDI, there's the extended period of Medicare coverage. Third myth about working, if I lose my job, I will never get my SSI or SSDI benefits back. And somebody asked this one also.
Yeah.
So even if you're successful in working, or you're working full-time where you're not eligible for any more SSI income, it does not mean that you can never get them back if you need them. There's a work incentive available to recipients of both SSI and SSDI that allow their benefits to be restarted. This is called expedited reinstatement of benefits. And I'm sorry for all these acronyms, but this is Social Security. They call it EXR. So if an individual does not meet the eligibility for the expedited reinstatement benefits, they can always reapply for benefits. And for a more specific site on the work incentives that are available, you can go to this link here. And this is the specific Social Security site that focuses on disability research and work incentives. And again, Social Security it can be a very frustrating experience to navigate. It can be a very frustrating experience to navigate, but it's worthwhile to ask somebody to assist you, to help you navigate it so that you can be employed and have the good stuff in life. It's still worth it in the long run.
Mary is asking about micro businesses, and she said instead of working, can they have a micro business? But as we know, micro businesses are a lot of work. So it would be a different way of working instead of what we would think of as traditional employment would be to have a micro business. And are we talking about that at all? We talked a little bit last week with Julie.
We talked,
about that.
you and
Yeah.
Julie talked, so in our session 2 that we recorded, Lori and Julie talked about how to start a business and develop, do all the
Yeah.
paperwork for that. And that's the primary one that we talk about, that, Lori, is what you.
Yeah,
and Julie
last
did
week we
last
talked a lot about micro enterprise. So if you were not here last week, we don't have the recordings available yet. We're still working on getting
We're
them.
hoping by
cleaned up.
mid-June. By mid-June,
Right.
they'll be accessible.
So for more information or to register for upcoming webinars, go to, the link is there, the Avenues SLS homepage, avenuessls.org. And at the top of the homepage, we have a link that will take you to a page where you can pick your language. And once you pick your language, you can sign up for the future webinars. Again, we apologize that you have to answer those questions again. If you're having trouble answering those questions, please send an email to us and we can help you register. We can copy your previous answers if you need that kind of an accommodation. Otherwise, we hope to see you all next week, and bring your friends. And we'll stay on for another 2 minutes if anybody has any further questions in the chat, but otherwise we will see you all next week. Thanks.